Should Christians watch anime, or should we avoid it completely? A question I've been asked many times, especially as I've been making anime content, and with so many different shows that have action, fantasy, and romance, I want to take a look at anime through a biblical lens and tell you why I think Christians should be watching anime. For starters, let's keep in mind that anime is a medium, not a genre. Much like TV shows here in the West, there are dozens of different types of anime, from your typical battle shonen to sports, comedy, slice of life, romance, etc. Anime is the medium in which these stories are told, which spans across a myriad of different genres. This also means that anime itself isn't inherently evil or satanic, so when you hear people like Matt Walsh say that anime is deeply satanic, that's just simply not true, but that's a topic for another video. Anime has a plethora of incredible stories that are uplifting and have positive messages, so writing off the entire medium means you'd miss out on said stories, most of which I think are better than a majority of Western media. And while anime isn't Christian in nature, there are a lot of Christian themes and values to be gleaned from it. Stories that emphasize things like love, redemption, selflessness, grace, and perseverance, all things that Christians can get behind and strive to achieve every day. That being said, I want to go ahead and nip some of the negative buds now before we get any deeper, because despite there being plenty of great and incredible anime out there, it's not a perfect medium and does have its fair share of bad apples. And most people's mind immediately jumps to fan service, which I will absolutely admit is an issue, but there are also some other things I think tend to get overlooked, like excessive violence and nihilism. Firstly is fan service, which is unfortunately very prevalent across all genres, and like I said, it is definitely an issue. However, I don't think it's worth avoiding anime entirely. My advice on fan service is to treat it like you would any other form of media and use your personal discernment. If a scene comes up that bothers you, you fast forward or skip it entirely. I personally have done that several times, and I have a pretty decent list of dropped shows just because of fan service, and I assure you that not all anime is centered around this concept. And as for excessive violence and nihilism, I think they both tend to fly under the radar, but are equally as bad for Christians as the fan service. It's not the violence that's the issue. I mean, have you read the Bible? The issue comes in when the violence is glorified or meaningless rather than being contextualized to show the consequences of evil. Violence, when used in the right context, can show us the harsh reality of the fallen world we live in. Nihilism is an entirely separate issue that I think I'll probably cover in a future video, but it's this concept of hopelessness and meaninglessness, showing that the world is full of nothing but despair and pain, and for the Christian, it's best to avoid overly nihilistic shows because this is a very damaging mindset and ultimately takes away from the hope and light that we find in Christ. With those negative points out of the way, let me get into my reasoning on why I think Christians should be watching anime. Then I'll give you some recommendations on some shows you should watch. A verse that comes to mind every time I think about this topic is Matthew 28:19, where Jesus says, "Go therefore and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit." And another verse to go with that comes a bit earlier in Matthew 5, where Jesus says, "You are the light of the world, a city set on a hill cannot be hidden." How can we be the light of the world if we refuse to engage in the world? And I know Jesus doesn't exactly say to watch anime in these verses, because anime didn't exist at the time, but the concept of going to all the nations still stands. And how can we go to all the nations if we don't engage in media from another country while we're still here? We have to be willing to take the gospel to people rather than just expecting them to come to us, which is something the American church has gotten pretty bad at. And does that always mean going to a different country on a missions trip? No, not necessarily. Maybe it is really just as simple as talking about Christian themes in anime. You don't even have to talk about Christian themes in anime. You could just be a Christian who likes watching certain shows and then live out your Christian values as you do so. I think having a Christian voice in the anime sphere is so vital because there are a lot of lost people out there who would never ever be caught dead in a church, but they would absolutely sit and talk about My Hero or Demon Slayer with you all day long. At the same time, I don't think we should watch anime strictly for the purpose of converting people, because then it seems forced and disingenuous. While we do have the ability to converse with non-believers over our shared interest, Our main goal shouldn't be conversion, but having genuine, meaningful conversations about anime and building that relationship, then letting God do the rest. Maybe that ends up with you sharing the gospel to someone, or just leaving them with a more positive view on Christians and that we aren't all Bible thumpers who hate their guts. That's kind of the point of this entire YouTube channel. I'm a Christian who loves anime, and I want to put those two things together and share it with others. I've had a ton of great conversations in the comments or on Twitter, just chatting about anime with people, and if I happen to get a chance to preach the gospel, that's great. If not, that's okay too. There's also an argument that Christians shouldn't engage in the world because we're set apart. Yes, that is absolutely true. As Christians, we are set apart, but that doesn't mean abandoning the world entirely. We as Christians are meant to be salt and light to the world, our saltiness being how we preserve the things that are good, and light being how we spread the hope of Christ to those who don't have it. If you want an incredible example of what happens when Christians take this mentality of abandoning the world to heart, look no further than modern Western society. The Christian refusal to engage with the culture and just call everything satanic and evil has led to everything being satanic and evil. The cultural rot we see now has a direct link to Christians losing interest and not being involved in things. We're on a bit of an upswing now, but we've still got a ways to go. Does that mean we don't call things out? Absolutely not. We should call out evil when we see it, but we need to stop acting like everything is satanic just because we don't like it. And the only way to prevent things from getting worse is to be involved and share biblical truth in all areas of life, including anime. Something I want to point out is that anime isn't a one-size-fits-all issue. There's a lot of discernment needed when it comes to finding good shows to watch, especially when it comes to certain genres like romance. And when I make videos like this, I can give you broad answers and reasons as to why you should watch anime, and even give you recommendations, but there is still a personal responsibility to use your own discernment on what you should watch. We all have different struggles and temptations. Something that doesn't bother me may bother someone else, and that's very important to keep in mind. Anime, much like any hobby, can be enjoyed by Christians when done with the right heart posture and discerning what shows are worth watching. Now that I've made a case for Christians to watch anime, you might be thinking, what shows should we watch? A stellar question from the audience. Thank you for your participation. When recommending anime for Christians to watch, it's not a blanket endorsement of everything that happens in that series. There is no truly Christian anime, but rather anime that have strong Christian themes, embody values that Christians hold, or is just a really good show that's safe for Christians to watch. To keep things brief, I'll give you 5 anime that I think Christians should watch, along with why I think you should give them a shot, so let's jump right into it. Alright, I get it. Spy Family is the safe choice when it comes to a list like this, but it always ends up here for a reason. It's also an anime I recommend to people who've never watched anime since it's a pretty easy place to start. I mean, come on, this is the ideal Christian anime. You have a set of loving parents who want to see their child succeed and do their best to make this wacky situation work, and it's gotten a lot of popularity because of the pro-family values that it has. In a time where getting married and having a family are almost frowned upon, watching a show like Spy Family is very refreshing. It's a complete paradigm shift to what makes up a lot of Western shows nowadays, and I appreciate it for being that. One of my favorite aspects of this show is Yor, and it's not just because she's a pretty anime mom, but her indecision about continuing to be an assassin is really captivating because we get to see how she is before meeting Anya and Lloyd, but now she just wants to do her best to be a good mom and a wife, which is very admirable and something we don't often see in media anymore. Spy Family is a very cute and wholesome anime that is really easy to enjoy. It's also incredibly hilarious and maybe some of the most fun I've had watching an anime. Seeing how this telepath, assassin, and spy all live together and hide their secrets is just pure wholesome fun. And for those who want something a bit deeper, there are subplots for that where we dive into stuff like the consequences of war and what it does to a society. There's also a really awesome movie to watch, and a 3rd season is coming soon, so now is a great time to give Spy Family a shot if you haven't already. Also, Anya is and forever will be an icon. Demon Slayer Kimetsu no Yaiba is one of my personal favorite anime, and one that's also fairly popular. I'd honestly be shocked if people still hadn't seen it. I've also talked about it a fair amount on this channel and why I love it so much despite it being seen as overhyped or carried by animation. I think Demon Slayer's strengths lie in the simplicity. Since the story isn't trying to do anything super complex or crazy, there's a lot more time and focus put into the characters and their stories, helping them to feel fully fleshed out rather than just cardboard cutouts who have flashy fights. That said, the anime does have some truly gorgeous animation. Ufotable has done incredible work to make this series come to life and elevate the manga's already great storytelling. Do I think it's carried by animation? No, not at all. The goal of an anime adaptation is to look nice, so why is it inherently a problem for Demon Slayer? From a Christian perspective, the narrative of Demon Slayer is one we should be familiar with. I explain this a bit more in detail in another video, but the Demon Slayers themselves can be an allegory for Christians, while the demons emulate sinners, with the former choosing a path of righteousness and selflessness for the greater good, and the latter giving themselves up to their sinful desires and living how they please. This series embodies the Christian experience in a way I haven't seen another anime do, which is also why it's easily one of my favorites. The story is solid, the action is great, and overall, it's just a really good series that I can't recommend enough. Similarly to Demon Slayer, Mashle, Magic and Muscles is a pretty simple and straightforward series with an equally simple premise. The series feels like a mashup between Harry Potter and One Punch Man, and it honestly does it pretty well. Mash Burndead lives in a world where magic is everything and everyone can use it, except for him. So, to avoid being snitched on by the cops, he goes to this universe's equivalent of Hogwarts and tries his hand at becoming a divine visionary, and from there, all kinds of wacky hijinks ensue. While Mashle does have a lot of good action, I'd say a bulk of its charm lies in the comedy and characters. It's got some really good slapstick comedy that works in both the anime and manga, which always has me laughing, and the characters are equally as enjoyable. They all bounce off of each other really well, and they do feel like truly good friends. I think the Christian themes in this series are a bit more obvious than some others, at least for me personally, and that's the idea of every life having value. Yet another concept I fully fleshed out in another video, but in the world of Mashle, those who can't use magic are culled from the world as to not taint it with their inferior genes, something MASH stands in direct contrast to. This series wastes no time driving home the fact that this is wrong, and we as Christians can understand why life has this innate value that this series is trying to advocate for. You could apply this message to any number of situations, but for the Christian watching Mashle, you can absolutely see why it's wrong. To me, Mashle is one of those perfect series to just turn your brain off and enjoy the action because it doesn't always make sense, but that's okay, you'll probably laugh it off anyway. Okay, I can't go through this video without giving you a romance anime recommendation, so let me hit you with Rascal Does Not Dream of Bunny Girl Senpai. Now, I know the title sounds sus, and the key art looks sus too, but I promise you it's not. It's actually a really wholesome story and an incredible romance. There are a lot of great things I could say, but I really want to hone in on the relationship between our two main characters, Sakuta and Mai. Their relationship is one I'd say absolutely mirrors the type of relationships the Bible talks about. They're both equally yoked and complement each other really well. Mai and Sakuta have such an honest relationship that values that honesty and genuine love above physical attraction, even though he's definitely down bad for her. And their love is self-sacrificial, Sakuta doing everything he can to make sure she doesn't fade away, losing sleep, sacrificing tests, and even putting his own pride on the line and confessing to her in front of the entire school. And on the flip side, Mai isn't just Sakuta's girlfriend, but a partner and a helper who stands beside him and eases the burden he's been carrying on his own for so long, even if it's just making dinner for him and his sister. They can both lean on each other for support, knowing full well that they're looking out for one another, and it's just such a healthy relationship that is what I think we should all strive for in our relationships. And I could say more, but I don't want to give too much away, so you should just go give it a watch. I'm gonna try not to sound too biased here, since My Hero Academia is my favorite anime of all time, and I've already talked about why this series means a lot to me in various videos and streams, but I still feel like it has a spot on this list. My Hero is just a good action anime with a lot of underlying themes about redemption, which is especially present with the villains and even heroes like Endeavor. The series asks the question of, what does redemption truly mean and how does one achieve it? Villains like Lady Naga and Gentle Criminal get a second chance, but Shigaraki and Toga don't? Another aspect of the series is true heroism and being there for your fellow man, something I think Deku does incredibly well. He's a shining example of what makes a true hero, and his selfless nature reflects that of the attitude Christians should have. A lot of people online will call this My Disney Academia because there's no stakes, but I think those people are missing the point of what My Hero is supposed to be. Amidst a world that's getting darker by the day, the heroes, Deku especially, have to have hope and see the light at the end of the tunnel. This is exactly why I like My Hero over a series like Jujutsu Kaisen, because there's always that underlying theme of hope and optimism rather than doom and nihilism. Ignore the haters online and watch My Hero. I'm obviously very biased, but I still think it's worth watching since the story is very meticulously crafted and has a great message overall. This one is very near and dear to my heart, so I'll definitely have more videos about it in the future, but I'll end here for now. The main takeaway I hope you have from this video is that yes, you can be a Christian and watch anime. The biggest thing you have to keep in mind is using your discernment to see if a show is appropriate or not. People like me can absolutely give you recommendations, but don't let our opinions override your personal convictions. Now, before I sign off, if you're a Christian who loves anime or wants to start getting into it, let me encourage you to watch some Christian anime content creators like myself. Shockingly enough, we do exist and love anime just as much as you do, and can not only offer good content, but talk about anime from a Christian perspective. In my humble opinion, there's nothing better than a community of Christians who love talking about anime, so be sure to join us on this endeavor and let's all just have a great time. So yeah, those are my thoughts on why I think Christians should watch anime, along with a few recommendations for you, but let me know in the comments what you thought. Do you agree with my sentiments or think I'm totally off rocker? I look forward to hearing your opinions. While you're down there, be sure to subscribe so you don't miss any of the absolute banger videos I have coming up, and as always, a special shout out to the channel members since it's your support that allows me to keep making videos just like this. If you want more, you can check out my playlist on A Christian's Guide to Anime or this other video Mr. Algorithm thinks you'll like. So until next time, I'll see you around. Peace out.